Hi, I'm Dan Turk with Global PLM Solutions. PMI is product manufacturing information. Now some folks will think of it as 3D drawings, but when you take PMI and you really break it down, it's taking all of the information about a part, the surface finishes, the GD&T, any applicable notes, and taking that off of the drawing and putting it right into the model. Because that information is contained in the model, you no longer need the drawing. There are many benefits to implementing PMI into your company. We're just going to talk about two of those, speed and quality. Oftentimes, speed and quality don't go hand in hand, but with PMI, they do. The first one we're going to talk about is quality. With PMI, it helps to communicate your design intent. Think about a standard 2D drawing, maybe a complicated one. One person will look at that drawing and see it or interpret it one way. The next guy will look at it and see something entirely different. But when you take all of the information, the applicable dimensions, the GD&T, put it just on the model, well, it cuts out the need to interpret. You can see everything right there. The quality is also improved because as you're designing a part, you can add the GD&T to it right at the part's conception. Then going downstream, everybody gets to see what's important to this part. What are you trying to do? The next part we'll talk about is the increased speed. With PMI, you eliminate the need for 2D drawings. When it comes to a conventional 2D drawing, we have to detail everything. Every line, every edge, every radius. Sometimes we're putting dimensions on things and it doesn't really make that big of a difference. With PMI, you can still add dimensions as you need for PPAP, inspection dimensions, quality dimensions, and so on. But you eliminate all the need for all those superfluous dimensions. These are just two of the benefits that your company can have in using PMI, but there are really many more. One of the major barriers for a company switching to PMI is a lack of understanding. Now think about it. What do you do when you don't know something? When you want to get an answer to a question? You Google it. So if you were to Google PMI, what do you think would be on the first page of Google? Well, number one, we'll give a shout out to the Project Management Institute. Then number two is private mortgage insurance. On the first few pages of Google, the resource that all of us use, there is nothing about product manufacturing information. So that lack of understanding, it just trickles right down through the entire process. Another barrier to overcome is a company's culture. 2D drawings, they have been around for what seems like forever. Some folks can even be a little cliche and say, well, we've always had them. That's the way we've always done it. So that's the way we're always going to do it. With PMI, the idea is to get rid of those 2D drawings in the typical or conventional sense. Some people will say though, well, you have to have a drawing. You have to have a sheet of paper that can go from one desk to another. You have to have something that you can email to manufacturing, to your suppliers. With PMI, you still have all of those options. You can still have a drawing that you can print out, and even better, you'll have a document that is intelligent that you can email or use however you need to. When it comes to implementing PMI into your company, training is really the very first step that you need to take. PMI is not one of those things that a designer can just play with it, just try and make things work. One of the complaints we heard about PMI was when you go to add a datum, it just doesn't orient quite the way that you want. In NX software, you have to use model views. The problem is, prior to PMI, we never used model views. The training also would need to take place further down the supply chain. Purchasing, manufacturing, suppliers, they would need to be trained too. But this doesn't have to be an all-day exhaustive training. Really, it can be something that's rather brief. just helping them to understand this is what they're going to receive in the future and this is how they can benefit from it. An implementation plan is also very important. You need to have a roadway to find success. When it comes to implementing PMI, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what that final document should look like, you won't be successful. You've got to have the map, you've got to have the path to find success with PMI. So once you have your training, once the plan is in place, where do you go from there? Well, we recommend starting with a pilot program. Now, a number of our customers, they've started this by taking one product line or one new project and saying, we're going to use PMI just for this. That way they can see what are the pitfalls, what are the areas that they're going to need to really focus on. And then they would take this PMI, this new data, and roll it out to purchasing, manufacturing, to their suppliers. Once they find success, then they're using PMI throughout their entire company. When implementing PMI into your company, we recommend that you start small, with a smaller project. In this way, you allow your team time to grow with the software, to grow in their knowledge of it. Not just your team, but really your entire organization. These small steps will lead to big success. So what's the future of PMI? Well, PMI is one of the hottest things around, one of the biggest buzzwords, and it's because many industries, they are now requiring the use of it. Automotive, aerospace, among others, they're already implementing PMI. So for everyone else, it's just the need to play catch up. What does the future of PMI look like for our upcoming workforce? Well, nowadays, all the kids are doing everything in 3D. Think about it. The most popular game is Minecraft. These kids, they're building worlds, houses, machinery, all in 3D. Then they come to our companies and we tell them, forget what you know, now let's start detailing in 2D. The reality is that universities, they no longer teach conventional 2D drawings. Our future workforce is technology driven. PMI is technology driven as well. It's really the tool of the future when it comes to design engineering. PMI is here today and it's not going anywhere. It's becoming a requirement throughout many different industries. Our team is fully equipped to help with training and with implementation. We invite you to contact us to discuss how we can help you to implement PMI within your company.